The circle of life, the reach, the rest, the roots, the rise.
Greetings and welcome to Sunday School here in the Golden Year for Earthstrology School. This is our journey into the Cancer archetype and our dance with the lovely moon, the light that changes. So here we see these many phases and the triple faces of goddess. So selenite for Selene, moon. Let's gather into our hearts and we'll connect to the 7 directions, and let's start with the roots. So north for we northern hemispherians, south for those of you living south of the equator. And we'll reach not straight down, that's the below, right? But rather below our celestial pole, down into the ground, into the well, the ancient one, the roots. Just drinking from that water of our ancestors. Feeling into the moist soil in which we were planted. Here in this beautiful planet Earth. This watery world. We'll bring those roots now to the rise in the east. What is new? Who are you? How will you bring this ancient message from the roots to rise as new light? Rising up to the reach, the height, standing in honor, in reverence, showing up. And what goes up must come down. So to the rest in the west, where we connect, come back to the earth, celebrate this marriage of the heavens above and the earth below. And back to the roots where we began and where we will end when we become ancestors. From this place, from this ancient well, let us reach up above and down below, opening the heart, stretching the spine, feeling into that center where we are all one, the heart of Gaia, and reaching up above to the zenith, to that unique place, that space above our head that is ours and ours alone and is ever changing, the whole and the particular, the below, the above. Let's bring the below up and the above down and meet at the heart. The 7th direction, for it is the first. Thank you for being here. It's nice to feel your energy. Here on this June 19th. This Juneteenth. So we come together for Sunday School here in the Golden Year of Earthstrology, a day that's known as Jubilee. We want to celebrate freedom, but also look into the ugly eyes of institutions gone bad. So today is our Cancer transmission and our journey with the moon, and certainly we will be speaking about Mother. But this is our golden year of the sun. Is it any wonder that in our culture's calendar we celebrate Father's Day at this time, summer solstice, when the spine of Gaia's northern axis is pointing at the sun? The height of the light, the glory of the king, the longest day and the shortest night in the northern hemisphere? I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? Sun day. And a kind of solar worshipping and unconsciously solar worshipping cult for the most part. This culture many of us came up in. So Father's Day always on Sunday, and the Sunday in June that is most closely aligned to summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, the height of the light, the glory of the king. So let's tune into the beauty of good patriarchs, leading lights, but also into the burning flames of patriarchy. So interesting today to come together on both Father's Day and also Juneteenth, Jubilee, which I hope you know about, is a celebration of freedom from emancipation of slavery, specifically in Texas, which came later than the Emancipation Proclamation. That was January 1st of 1863, and then Juneteenth or Jubilee is a celebration of freedom in Texas, which was not until June 19th, 1865. And, you know, slavery persisted. I mean, let's be honest, it still does. But slavery as an institution in the United States persisted in Delaware and Kentucky. Is that right? Anyway, in two states, I am sure, even after the Juneteenth Jubilee, this isn't something that I learned in school and maybe kids now do. It's interesting to see as well that the Emancipation Proclamation was initially stated as a threat during Civil War, right, to Confederate states, that if they would not come back to the Union and end the divide, then their slaves would be released. Right, so what would have happened if they said, okay, let's end the war and we're coming back in? Interesting. And, you know, I want to honor also in this interesting model of the United States, or in any system of hierarchy where there's a, you know, president or king, or I guess top of the pyramid, and then these different states or counties, whatever it may be, even to the individual homes, right? We want to get into that a little bit today as we look to sun, golden year, but also to moon and to Cancer, to homes and to cults, I guess I could say. The shift of the Gregorian calendar. Oh, let's go back to sun as we talk about that. Right, from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, which came around first in the 16th century. Right, what happened is we realized after some debate that the Julian year was not accurate. Right? The Julian calendar was 365 and a quarter days per year. So, right, working in 365-day years, and a leap day every fourth year. So 365 and a quarter average days per year is how that worked out. But Easter was slipping from the east equinox, and that just couldn't be. And nobody knew why, because they had burned the astrology books, right? Hmm. So, I mean, amazingly, all of these like astrology calendars and solstice calendars and meridian calendars and rose lines were coming into churches at the time. And, so you will see the astrology glyphs at St. Peter's Square, the Vatican, right? Where the shadow of an obelisk stolen from Egypt is keeping golden time of the sun moving through the tropical zodiac signs. That obelisk was moved to that location in St. Peter's Square right around the time of this Gregorian calendar shift, where we moved to a different system that's much closer to honoring the true length of a solar year, which is not 365 and a quarter days, but rather more like 365.242199. But who's counting? We are. And there's something about reconnecting to golden time, to natural time. So I bring in this Gregorian calendar shift as another interesting example of, a commandment from on high that some cults were not interested in complying with at all. The prime meridian shift, right? This strange, evidence of, colonial Britain, frankly, is another interesting trip, right? Like the French, for example, demanded it be located in Paris, and they did not comply with the new Greenwich Mean Time and time zones with the relocation of the prime meridian to Greenwich, the UK, and London for some time. And many did not move from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar for some time. Interesting things to consider. Because so much of this has to do with perhaps this opposition that we'll speak about today, or this diameter of the great circle. We're making it halfway through our golden year, and we've made it to this domicile of the moon, Cancer, opposite Capricorn, where we began our journey. The moon is most happy when it is full. And the sun always looks like a perfectly minted gold coin that was just polished and placed in flight by God's playful kiss. And so many varieties of fruit hang plump and round from the branches that seem like a sculptor's hands. I see the beautiful curve of a pregnant belly shaped by a soul within. And the earth itself and the planets and the spheres, I have gotten the hint. There's something about circles the beloved likes. Hafiz, within the circle of a perfect one, there is an infinite community of light. We hear much moon here, right? The infinite community, this loving connection. The beautiful curve of a pregnant belly shaped by a soul within. And we know in late term, like that is spherical, right? So beautiful to see the phases of the moon, like the waxing phases, and pregnancy, and fertility. We see here with our eyes on nature and the natural world, these keys of the mysteries. Is moon most happy when it is full? If moon is most happy at home, which astrology suggests is a house called Cancer, then that would mean moon is happiest when sun is in Capricorn. It's It's an interesting thing to consider. I mean, Moon, it would seem, perhaps is most happy with the truth that she is the light that changes. These three faces, this triple-headed goddess. I love this image so much. And there's ways that I work with this magical moonstone to work the moon, to know how far moon is from the sun, because the shape of her smile will change with that increasing phase as she waxes, or decreasing phase as she wanes. And so we see the three Marys, three faces of waxing and full and waning, and speak about these mysteries of these blood gates, and maiden and mother and crone. Well, some do not love that last word of those three. But I think about that as wisdom, elder wisdom, grandmother. But today, perhaps we want to focus on Mother Moon and this middle gate, this middle stage, this fertile stage, this birthing stage, this fullness. Is Moon most happy when she is full, or is Moon most happy because she only sometimes is? There's a fun story that Moon changes phase. She once was always full, but she, or actually rather he in this tale, laughed at Ganesha at a time where this lord had eaten too many sweets and fell from the rat upon which he rides, and the tummy broke open and all of these candies and cakes started rolling out. And so frantically Lord Ganesha is grabbing the cakes to put them back into the stomach that had split open. And he hears this laughter, and he believes it's coming from the ground, and perhaps it was a snake. And there's something about snakes in the moon, and the serpent's head and tail, these lunar nodes. And so that snake, which was accused for the one laughing, was instantly released of its animation. And then it became a belt, so Ganesha could tie that stomach up with all the cakes, now fortunately back inside where they belong. And yet the laughter persisted. It was coming from the heavens. It was coming on high. Chandra, or was it Soma, Moon, laughing at this amazing event here on Earth? This rather mortal thing. So Ganesha, it said, broke off one of those tusks and threw it into the sky and cracked the moon into a million pieces. And the moon was gone. And in an interesting approach to physics, so went the night. Interesting. When we tune into astrology and sect, right? Sun, the light of day, and moon, the light of night. Well, here's another beautiful celebration of the light that changes. Have you ever seen the sun at nighttime? And the answer is no. But let me ask this. Have you ever seen sunlight at nighttime? And we could get technical and say, well, astrologically, night is any time that the sun is below the horizon. So that sunset dusk, where we see the beautiful sky chakras in the west, that's light. Technically at night, sunlight at night, the beams, the combustion. We see this before sunrises in the east. So, okay, yes. But what about in the middle of the night? Have you ever seen sunlight? Have you ever received the silver bath from a full moon in the middle of the night? Diana delivering Apollo's birth. Moon delivering sunlight to Earth. And moon, you know, is not the only mirror. Perhaps you've seen Aphrodite holding hers. Well, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, like moon, all visible mirrors of sunlight to Earth, each reflecting that one light in their own unique way, in their own unique shape. And with the telescopes, we can see that Mercury and Venus, like moon, crescent too. But unlike moon, they cannot half or gibbous or full. And Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn can only be full from earthly view. Our telescopes allow us to receive sunlight from mirrors called Uranus, Neptune, and a little bit from Pluto. Haumea, Maki, Maki, Eris. And there's many more. And those who are closer to home, Ceres. Perhaps if we speak about closer to home, we should feel that warmth and that hearth and honor Hestia, Vesta. An asteroid, actually, that can be seen with the naked eye, a mirror. Uranus, who can be seen with the naked eye in a moonless night when opposite sun. And I've been initiated. Uranus, a mirror, but always full in the scope. Mercury and Venus always crescent, if they can be seen at all. Moon, the light that changes, the many phases. It is so important. And of course, we see sunlight in the middle of a mooned night, for moon is delivering one light to earth, soul reflecting spirit into matter. And what would happen if there was no moon? Of course, there would be no night, or so it is said in this strange tale from ancient days, or perhaps this tale of Ganesha cracking the moon with that Tuscan response to heavenly laughter at earthly plight is not of the ancient canon. Regardless, it has been whispered to me, and I like to share it. And so it goes that when the moon went away, so did night. There was only day. And without night, my friends, well, let's not worry about the truth that we couldn't survive. That's not part of the tale. What did not survive was poetry, passion, lovemaking, mystery, dreams. And this couldn't be. So those others came to Ganesha. Lord Ganesha, please, please bring the moon back. We need our poems. We need our dreams. We need that love that happens most beautifully when the sun has rested in the west and shines from somewhere in the mysterious place below. And so it was, and moon was allowed to come back on the scene in the return of night, but ever since, the moon has not always been full, not always been that circle of light, but rather the light that changes, the light that wanes until disappears. 3 days of darkness as far as our earthly experience of moon every month when she gets too light, too close to the burning light of the sun, to the flames, where every month Hecate's bow, our last vision, that waning crescent, which we see in the sunrise east just before moon dives into the fires once again to be reborn, and reborn visibly in the sunset west. The way that I've come to know planetary cycles after some moves is that it's only the moon who is born in the west in her cycle with the sun. Arguments could be made for Mercury and Venus too, or perhaps only those. born in the place where the sun sets, the west, the portal into the mysteries of night, of darkness. Of course, this is the place where Moon would be born. Where were you born? Were you once just a beautiful curve shaping the belly? No. A soul, a soul, a unique reflection of the one light here on earth. Why? To feel, to heal, to know, to grow. For your growth is the growth of the all. And this is the miracle of the moon. Is the moon most happy when she is full? A perfect circle of light, like the sun just polished and placed in flight by God's playful kiss, always looking like a perfectly minted gold coin. Well, of course, moon would be a coin of silver. These three parts of the philosophy of the whole world, sun, moon, earth, spirit, soul, matter, circle, crescent, cross. And Hermes, Trismegistus, the one that has the three. But today we speak about that crescent, soul, and honor this cross inside his face in our school's logo, keeping it earthly, keeping it embodied. So very importantly, moon is the light that changes. Now this is true in so many ways, not only in phase, right? Moon's distance from the sun as she dances away from the light, from new to full when opposite, and now just as big in our sky as sun, rising at sunset, setting at sunrise, culminating in the middle of the night, and then shrinking, leaving that fullness for the next stage, lessening, shrinking, waning, the light that changes. I was up this morning connecting with the morning sky. We're at this time on June 19th, 2022. Wow, what a show to see. In the northern hemisphere, Mercury hiding from my eyes. In the southern hemisphere, I imagine you've been able to see the messenger at this time, but I saw the rest. I saw sunlight even though the sun was below, and I saw sunlight reflected in this waning gibbous shape of a beautiful moon whose near square, near waning half. Gemini sun reflected by Pisces moonlight to my earthly eyes. And I saw Saturn to the moon's right, which here in my northern hemisphere view is to the west. I didn't know exactly where moon was. It was a minute between my last check-in with the charts, I guess, but I know Saturn's in Aquarius and there was moon and far enough away to clearly be Piscean. And I knew that we are here just about to the sun's ingress in the tropical sign Cancer. So the sun in the last degrees of Gemini, and I could see in the shape of moon's smile that she was about 105, 110 degrees away from the sun. And so these things agreed. It's a Pisces moon, a watery moon, who soon will speed along her way and meet Jupiter and Aries, and then Mars, and then on to her dance with Venus, this beautiful sight. Venus, moon, always a crescent moon when visiting Venus, for Venus stays close to the light. And so we will see over the course of the next mornings like how quickly moon moves Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, everything that the sun does in a year, the moon does in a month. Moon gets around the zodiac in 27 and a third days, moving on average 13 and a third degrees per day. 13 and a third about. And it's an average because moon is the light that changes, not only in phase, not only waxing and waning, changing speed, sometimes less than 12 degrees per day, sometimes 16. For moon's orbit of Earth is not a circle. None of them are, but rather an ellipse. And when moon is close, that's super moon, brightest, biggest in our sky, and fastest. And when moon is far away at apogee, smallest, slowest, dimmest. The light that changes. What is it when the moon is close? Is it a soul that is excited to embody? What is it when the moon is far? We see this in the chart of moon conjoined, the true black moon. Is this moon wishing to leave the garden, stay in the mysteries, not get stuck in a place of matter? But what is it to get excited about this incarnation, to come to a place with the appearance of time and space so we can grow? But growing will not happen without knowing. Knowing will not happen without healing. Healing cannot happen without feeling. The light that changes, the moon, who has even more of a pull on the earthly waters and yours and mine than the sun, the tides, high tides, low tides, moon who celebrates and maintains this beautiful bond between the land and the sea, the known and the mystery. Moon, the queen of dreams. Moon, the crescent of soul. Moon, the mirror that delivers sunlight to earth as Diana delivered Apollo's birth. Moon, memories. Moon, instinct. Moon, memories, and moon, forgetting. Moon, perhaps that very pool we drink from to forget what happened before we come in. Moon, that twinkle in the baby's eye that reminds you this child is not new, but something old. Soul, gnosis, history, herstory, mystery. Merstory? I don't think that one works. But I do love to rhyme. Moon, the queen of poetry. Moon, the light of the night. Moon, the light that changes. Moon, who snakes above and below the plane of the sun, the heart of the zodiac, every month. Ascending, descending. It ascends to the heavens and again it descends to the earth, achieving the force of things above and below. So we are told by Hermes. Heavenly, earthly, celestial, terrestrial. Moon does all of these things more quickly than sun, much more. What sun does in a year, moon does in a month. And moon can do so much more than sun could ever dream to. Can sun even dream at all? That's in the realm of the moon. Moon, who at this time and for the years to come, this will become more extreme and then less, a long 18.5-year tidal force of lunar maximums and lunar minimums. Now we are at this time where the moon is rising in places the sun could only dream to go, beyond the tropics, beyond the tropicos, beyond the bounds. The out of bounds moon who gets higher than the sun could ever go. A couple weeks later, lower than the sun could ever go. Who rises and sets in places on the horizon that the sun could never. Moon, the light who changes. Moon, who shrinks and grows. mother, maiden, mother, crone, the three Marys, Mary, Mar, Ma, mater, matter. This beautiful bond between land and sea. Form and formless, known and unknown. Dry and moist. Moon has so much to teach the Earthstrologer who is willing to give themselves to the light that changes, to witness these heavenly happenings, to offer our senses as a gift, to open our reception to the whispers from the heavens. And Moon has so much to say. Moon, who teaches celestial longitude and latitude faster than any of the others, declination, right ascension, but prefers poetic language to all that nerdy stuff. Moon, the queen of tides. Sometimes we're low and sometimes we're high. Sometimes we're safe and sometimes the storm comes. Sometimes we have what we need and sometimes we don't. So let's speak about needs, especially the needs of the heart, or perhaps we should say the needs of the soul. Moon, the queen of tides, the one who pulls even more strongly than that giant burning light of sun, pulls on our hearts. Moon is our feels. But Moon, who may be in Pisces today, was not there when I was born. Gemini, Moon for me. So what do I need to feel safe and secure? For your Moon will help you understand what it is that will support you here in the mysteries of land. Does Gemini need feels? Or if Moon is feels, then a Gemini Moon is perhaps talking about those feels. Or perhaps Gemini Moon only feels secure when language is exchanged, when information is known, when there is an open dialogue. I mean, perhaps Gemini Moon's greatest nightmare is silence, and therefore a wonderful temple to explore for widening the experience. Why do we need our Moon to feel safe? Simply because of feels, and safety is a feelings thing? Or is this about the mystery of our history, herstory, the journey of our soul? Daniel Gemario, my first teacher at the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, says Moon represents the PhD of your soul and the tribe from which you come. Is this the twinkle in the baby's eye? And the reason why the baby's not allowed to speak at all, is because if they whispered what they know, the whole gig would be up. So not until they've been initiated into the cult of believing that this is real and that the dream is fake, then we will give them speech. You must listen to what the baby says in that jarbled tongue, the ancient code. But we must listen most importantly to that beautiful light in the baby's eye, reminding us we are so much more. And that we aren't new when we arrive. We are old. Is this a culmination of past lives? Is it traits handed down through the ancestry? Is this genetic predisposition? I don't know. Is it simply the agreement of the trauma that my collective carbon went through? You know, all of these pieces of the baby's body actually were born in the explosions of suns, stars, at least, say the physicists of our day. I mean, perhaps that's the thing. Who's to say? Who can really know? Well, perhaps you have memories, moon. And hopefully you have forgettings, moon. So you can come here as a soul who might be so old but still be born anew, coming from those roots to rise, to ascend. But remember, the eastern sky ascends because Earth is falling in that direction. We must descend into matter to lift the heavens up. We feel, we heal, we know, we grow so the all can grow. Soul reflecting spirit in a unique way, the crescent of soul reflecting that one light in a unique way that will never repeat here to Earth. Midwifing that birth. The mysteries of the moon, the light that changes, phases, tides, safety, security, needs, perhaps because this is what we've known. Habits, we say with moon, the same thing, perhaps on the other side of the spectrum, you know? Needs, you know, it's not needy to have needs. Technically, anyway, but we are taught to ignore our needs, that having needs is needy. It is better to give than receive. Well, moon gives so much light, but because she receives and reflects, shouldn't we? What do you need? What can you learn from the moon in your birth? How were the waters pulled at that moment when you arrived? Moon reflecting sunlight to Earth, and these luminaries combining force, or sometimes competing, to pull on those waters without and within. Moon, the queen of the mystery. Moon, the mother of us all. Moon, the body itself, according to the tradition. And sun, the soul. But I see in my own particular cosmology of the three parts of the philosophy, at least at this time in my journey, that the earth is the body, that's the ascendant. This was also said in the tradition, and that moon is something closer to spirit. The first, by the way, celestial sphere in the old cosmology, Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, stars, God, you know. The moon, the goddess. For this is the place of her rejoicing. One of Moon's roles, and we will journey into these traditions in a transmission of translation, the translation of light, carrying the light of one planetary conversation to the next, translating the light of the other wanderers here to Earth, delivering not only Apollo's birth, A messenger in this way, but she whispers not in words, but rather sings lullabies to you if you are willing to rest. So Gemini moon, it's safe for me if I'm allowed to have access to the information. I feel safer when we're talking. Gemini moon in the first, I guess I feel safest when I'm talking. You know, if we can't laugh at ourselves, friends, right? So we know I talk a little too much, and we only have so much time before the moon finds her way to Aries. That'll be about 2 days. Moon spending 2 1/3 days in a sign on average. She's fast sometimes, she's slow sometimes. You know, a sign is not equal time, but rather equal space. So for the sun, 30.4 days on average, hence the 30 and 31 days. And, you know, Gregorian calendar months, that's dating back to Julian calendar, named for Julius, whose month July gets 31, and Augustus 31 too. But they're honoring that average time of a golden month, sun through the 30 degrees of equal space of the tropical zodiac signs. What about month and month? What about silver time? Well, this will be our journey in the next year, where we will find that moon has many months. The month of phases, moon and sun, to about 29.5 days. Okay, 29.53059. But who's counting? We are. Moon, 27.321 days around the zodiac, the sidereal cycle, returning to one star, or the tropics, the tropical month. But this is the golden year, so let's just ask the moon to deliver more sunlight to Earth. And let's honor the truth that the sun is now making his way to the moon's home, the moon's house, Cancer. You know what we today call signs were once called houses. So Cancer is a house. What we call houses today in astrology were called places, topos, topics, where the signs were called houses, and Cancer is the house of the moon, her domicile. And therefore, in the tradition, Capricorn is said to be the place of the moon's exile, where she is on the other side of the world from her home, a stranger in a strange land. So let's tune a bit in today to this Cancer Capricorn diameter. Diameter. It's opposition, that pull that can either crush you or open you up, you know? I'm seeing love spread in the chat at this moment here in our Earthstrology clan. Wonderful. For the moon reminds us to give love. Many of us will have Capricorn moons, well, 1/12 of us. It's not like the ascendant, where statistically improbability comes to play, depending on where on Earth you were born. In the northern hemisphere, especially well north of the equator, Pisces and Aries rise so quickly it is statistically improbable to have that ascendant. And yet many of you defy the odds. And Moon, who changes speed, but is not faster in one sign than another. At this time, yes, and next year too, but that time will have different perigee, closest moon, apogee, furthest moon. This is in the chart reflected by the placement of the true black moon, as we've come to call this amazing point, and many use this word Lilith, who moves about 40 degrees through the zodiac each year and requires about 9 years to journey around. Moon, who's high above Some zodiac degrees in low below, others at her bending square to the nodes, but the nodes move in retrograde, reminding us of soul and memory and where we are coming from. 18.6 year trip. So many mysteries of moon, and moon will tune us into those structures, Capricorn. So why would that be a place of moon's exile? This Capricorn must tend to the foundations, and sometimes this necessitates us turning the water off. Capricorn, an earth sign, cold and dry, yeah? It is not about that moist soil. It is the trunk of the tree that does root and drink from that sacred place. Moon is about the fields. Moon is about the moisture. Moon is a watery being. Moon is the queen that pulls the waters of earth without and within you and me. Moon, however, is quite earthly. Moon likes us to feel safe. It's sensual. Embodied. Moon delivers us here. Or perhaps, as it is said in ancient astrology, moon is the body itself, at least one symbol literally for your body. The ascendant, the steersman of the chart, it is said. Perhaps the sect light, but especially the moon, body here, close to earth, sun, spirit, further away, body and soul, or soul and spirit, or spirit, and what's next, you know? We could go into moon, the closest, the fastest, moon who translates the light of the others. Moon said to be exalted in the sign of Taurus. Is this not the most sensual sign? Those roses need our noses. Why? Because that scent will help you remember and feel why you are here. So moon is said to be in fall in the opposite sign of Scorpio. Those are the deep waters, you know? Moon, the Cancer light, the surface of the waters where so much life is born in the light. Scorpio, the depths, or that dangerous wave that might take life from us and send us to the next. Scorpio, so powerful and dynamic, and moon really wants us to be safe, and Scorpio knows about that too, but typically not at first. Scorpio, fixed water, the art of the heart, my feelings. Pisces, mutable water, the spirit of the feelings. The connection to oneness. I am you, you are me. Every child is my child. I am the child of eternity. Cancer, cardinal water. My baby. My seed that I am here to commit to until that seed has sprouted and is now strong enough to stand alone. And perhaps even then I will keep clutching on. Well, let's see about this. The moon's domicile, the sign or the house, Cancer. Moon, a water sign, cardinal water. Interestingly, the cardinal signs were once called the movable signs. And, you know, let me just rewind this bit and let's watch our school logo perform this dance between the tropics, stopping to turn around at the solstice points, of course. The Gemini Cancer cusp in the tropical zodiac is one of these. Solstice, where the sun stops. Stops what? Look at the Cancer glyph, my friends. And you can see it here. Watch sunset for a year from the same place. I'm very blessed to now live where I can see all of the West. I'm going to find for you a photograph I took last night at sunset that helped me see it is solstice time. Now I know this because I can cast charts and the like, right? But also where I live, sun will only find set between these eucalyptus goalposts here at solstice time. Then we'll stop and turn around. Well, our tropical zodiac is named for the Greek tropikos, just as the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn are. When the sun ingresses tropical Cancer, sun shines directly above the Tropic of Cancer. It's furthest northern bound, and then we'll stop and turn around. Solstice, sun stops, tropicos, turn around, and then start moving south, passing the equator at equinox time, ingressing 0 Libra, and then the southern signs, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, the great adventure, taking it to the Tropic of Capricorn, where the sun stops, solstice, and turns around, tropic, tropicos, and then moves north for 6 months. So a view out of one window in our house. Interestingly, we can only see the Cancer sunset from Koa's room. Koa, who was born in July, with the sun in the very late degrees of that Cancer sign. Anna and myself, Scorpio, and we can see that of all these other windows because Scorpio sets well south. It is a southern sign. We have to go to our only northwestern window, Koa's window, to see the Cancer sunset. It is so amazingly appropriate. And where the Capricorn glyph is on the lower left of this image, I call that Solstice Hill. Right, so this is like the June solstice, the north solstice, goalposts, those eucalyptus trees. Right in between is due west, the equinox place, for Libra moving south and later Aries coming back to the north. These cardinal signs, these movable signs, to use that old word. Why movable? Because Aries and Libra on the sun dance and the horizons, they are moving most quickly. But at the solstice points, no, solstice, sun stops, and so does moon. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn too. Right? When they find their way to the solstice, there is a stopping and a turning around. So for Saturn, this is a 29.5-year trip on the horizons, yeah? For moon, 27.33 days on average. It's important to know that when we play with these many mysteries that we are really talking about average time, and the moon, the light that changes, will really defy averages frequently. You can see it in the Cancer glyph. 6 months north, stop and turn around. 6 months south, stop and turn around. 6 months north, stop and turn around. 6 months south. Watch your horizons. Rise before the light if east is available to you. Stay when night comes after sunsets, or watch that event if west is available to you. If neither, and I hear you, that's how it's been most of my life, do the work. When the sun moves into a new sign, go somewhere, have a sit spot, track this sun dance on the horizons, and once you're initiated by the sun, then watch the moon. The thing is, moon doesn't set at the same time on the clock. I mean, sun doesn't either, as we know, right? Fall and winter sunsets come early, spring and summer sunsets come late. More extreme the seasons are if you live far from Earth's equator. This weird daylight losings crime thing messes up the whole natural flow of it all. But like the Diana's bow, the first visible waxing crescent moon is going to set right after the sun does. Whereas the full moon won't set until sunrise. Waning moons will set when the sun is in the sky. So the moon initiates us into next level of the mysteries. And there's something in that bonding of the two lights that we can also find in the Cancer glyph, you see. These sigils whisper of deep mysteries. That's right, Cancer's deep too, Scorpio. But also so deeply involved with that one she is called to nurture. He is called to raise. Cancer, the domicile, the house of the moon. So clearly true. We're taught often, and we'll be journeying in this month of the school also with the Thema Mundi, the chart of the world's soul, from which these domicile lords and ladies were first presented to us by the great graces of our teacher, Hermes Trismegistus, it is said. It is not an Aries rising chart, it is a Cancer rising chart, friends. So it's often taught that, Leo is ruled by the sun because that's the hottest month, and moon is the sun's neighbor. Well, first of all, tell that to someone who lives in Brazil, that Leo is the hottest month. Interestingly, that is true in the Northern Hemisphere in most places. Even though Leo is not the longest day, that happens at the Gemini Cancer cusp. Thank you very much. Solstice, the height of the light, or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, its depth, right? So we can see this in the Gemini glyph. 6 months up, 6 months down. And the Cancer glyph, easier to see on the horizon, 6 months north and 6 months south. For the moon, 2 weeks north, 2 weeks south, 2 weeks up, 2 weeks down. She does everything so much more quickly. You can see that changing energy in Cancer. Perhaps it's that the moon is Cancer, is the queen of the Thema Mundi, the steersman of the ascendant of the world's soul, and the sun is the moon's neighbor. Why? Because she needs something to reflect. It just makes things so much more interesting. What is a poem without ears? To hear, what is a poem without inspiration? Oh, hello, moon. Wow, beautiful. So I'm looking out the window right above that Solstice Hill, and far above Solstice Hill at a Pisces moon who is currently shrinking on her way to the waning half, high in the sky in the 7th house, maybe the 7th, 8th cusp, depending on the house system you prefer. And moon here in Pisces, actually, it's cool to remember this, will basically set right into the peak of Mount Tamalpais tonight, but currently shines right above the place I call Solstice Hill. Which reminds me, I want to show one more picture to you, my friends. Where do we do this one? Moon is currently holding me, embracing me, and my shame to not have all of this prepared for you already. It was on the list. All right, so I'll start once again by showing you this sun dance on our local horizon. And so right now, as I'm looking out the window, the moon is like right here up above Solstice Hill, and is on her way to set right into the peak of Mount Tamalpais, this sacred mountain grandfather here. I'm told by some that the largest mountain peak near where you live is grandfather, and the nearest body of water, grandmother. Perhaps you can see here at the foot of Mount Tamalpais a little bit of the San Francisco Bay. So this eucalyptus tree right above the Capricorn glyph is the furthest south that sun will ever go, and then it will stop and turn around. Sun stops, solstice, turn around, tropicos. So I want you just to mark those eucalyptus trees as I then show you this next picture of moonset the other night. This is the moon in Capricorn, out of bounds south. Okay, so this is the southern bounds of the sun, like this tree here. This is Solstice Hill. And then look how far south on the left of the frame. Going to be harder to see that giant super moon setting the other day. And setting at day. Look, we're seeing moonlight with the sun above the horizon. This is the day after full moon. The moon is just barely waning. Still looked full in the sky and huge, but we know it's not the opposition when moon sets before the sun rises. So moon, again, can go to places the sun only can dream to go. This is that out of bounds moon. This moon was south of the Tropic of Capricorn. That is the bounds of the sun. The sun is bound by the tropicos, the tropics, the turnarounds. Moon, no. Some signs of the nodes promote out of bounds moon twice a month near the solstice sign. So the Gemini Cancer moon, out of bounds north. The Sagittarius Capricorn moon, out of bounds south. And when the north node makes her way to the east equinox point, 0 degrees tropical Aries, we are in the lunar extremes, where even Scorpio, Aquarius, just a few degrees, Taurus, Leo, a few degrees of these fixed signs will also host an out of bounds moon. So really want to, in as many ways as I can, sing the praises of the light that changes and bring that here to this house, this domicile called Cancer. So there are many ways to get to know these signs. We might explore triplicity. Now, typically we say element, right? Water. We might explore polarity. Nocturnal. Perhaps you prefer feminine, yin. Inner. Modality, cardinal. As I like to say, the science of the elements. What is the science of water? We water to help them grow. We give water. As I like to say, cardinal, service to others in the water. Fixed, service to self-growth. Scorpio, fix myself to fix the world. Rip open the heart and let it grow. For I cannot have compassion, Pisces, without passion, Scorpio. Service to spirit, mutable water, Pisces. Service to others, cardinal water, Cancer. Service to other, depending on how many babies you have. And perhaps the youngest needs the most of your nurturing love, the most of your water for a time, but please do not forget their older sibling and their older sibling. And perhaps there are not babies. What are you giving birth to? What have you given birth to? What are you nurturing? How can you learn to do this responsibly? How can we raise the children but also release them How can we know that they are not ours, but we are theirs? Can you truly open your heart without that safety and that security? Culture, cult. There's a Capricorn Cancer consideration. So we can learn so much about signs by looking at these polarities, these oppositions. We've talked about Capricorn as foundations. Let's move from there. These foundations, these rules, Aquarius, breaking broken rules is the right thing to do. But if the rules are good, we need rules to play a game. We need foundations to stand tall. Not only personally, but as a culture, And if the rules are good, then Aquarius should innovate. But the elders do not prefer innovations. They know what is necessary for the preservation of the true traditions for the sake of the 7 future generations. So when you have that genius idea and you know how to make that right change, not to break the old rules and cast them aside, but rather help them grow into a new phase, you might want to wait. Till when? Well, let your intuition guide the way. Allow that Pisces to develop within you. Do not rush. Feel. Feel the others' feels. You can, for you are them. We are one. So when your genius knows that the old foundation is ready for some new code, wait until the fields say yes, and then launch that ship. Then do your thing. Then rise in the east. Be new. Contribute. Commit. Take that adventure. Be you. But you're not here alone, my friends. And your needs will help remind you of the truth that the food can only come from without. Even if everything you eat is grown in your own garden, you did not produce those seeds. You can't transplant without plant. So here we are on this journey. Here we are in this vehicle that needs fuel. Sorry, Aries. You gotta eat too. You can't conquer that mountain unless you have food. And perhaps you cannot attend to the mysteries of the school for which you have come to study. Perhaps you cannot help the one thing grow without yourself growing. Does that happen without knowing? Does knowing happen without experience? Does experience happen without healing? Does healing happen without feeling? Can you feel in a bubble? Can you feel if you're trapped in your shell? Or must you, like the hermit crab, test your faith? Fly away from that shell so you can upgrade to a larger space that gives you room to grow. I mean, heaven forbid you allow a space with room for 2, then the feels really start happening, but allowing ourselves to address our needs, to know that having needs is not needy. Valuing this. And needing values. Voicing this. Gemini comes around. Are you willing to cry for milk, young baby? Fortunately, the wise ones who show up in these very young bodies have no restrictions of expressing their needs, but will they be heard? When baby cries in the middle of the night, will they be heard? Will the one who gave birth come with milk? Come with touch, come with tenderness, come with safety, come with coos, come with lullabies. Rock in that chair. Offer the water of life. Are you in touch with your needs? Have you claimed that sacred soil? Are you voicing them? Are you learning that perhaps your words are falling on deaf ears? And then exploring the truth that we all have a different language. It's helpful when the language is simply ah and ooh. I need it now to survive. And oh, thank you, I'm safe. The tides, so beautifully taught by the ones so young that they have not yet forgotten the mysterious place from which we come. The seas of mystery, the celestial ocean. So is it that the moon is the sun's neighbor or the sun the moon's neighbor? The steersman, perhaps you'd prefer to hear steerswoman, of the Thema Mundi ascendant, the chart of the world soul, Cancer rising, not Aries, 15th degree of Cancer. For is it not the world's job to birth us, to mother us, to hold us in our tidal flow, to bring those tides that help us grow, that almost drown us, then lift us up? Celestial, terrestrial, pull, push. And to connect us. The wave comes not to taste the sand, but to offer her love. So those separated grains will become one clay, wetness. And this is a very different force than that Capricorn foundational place from which our story began today and this year in the Golden Year play. This 7th sign of our journey, which means we are halfway, the beginning of this 7th month, 7th sunth, following the sun through these equally spaced signs. 7, this great mysterious number once known as the Virgin, and we will tune into that more deeply in our associated sacred geometry number magic class. 7, like 11, which require more than one syllable in this language I learned and speak. That is not true for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 12. And all of those numbers will divide the circle perfectly, but not 7. No, not 7. 7, these miracles, these lights, these days, these metals. Silver for the moon. Silver, the atomic mass of 108. Just as the moon is 1080 miles in radius, 2160 miles in diameter, 2160 years in an astrological age. 108 moon diameters is about the distance that moon of 1080 miles by radius is distant from us. That same could be said of the sun. The sun is 108 suns from Earth. The moon is 108 moons from Earth. The sun is 108 Earths in diameter, 108 beads on the mala, you know. These are the mysteries And it's coated in the very atomic weight of silver. Silver, which is moonlight embodied, moonlight in matter, just as gold is sunlight fixed into material form, the vibration slowing to this pace where we can actually hold. Moonlight in our hands. Moon keeps her home in Cancer, where Jupiter is said to be an honored guest, and specifically at the 15th degree, the very ascendant of the Thema Mundi. Why Jupiter in Cancer? Well, many of us these days think of Jupiter as a Sagittarian fire being alone, but in the old code, very Piscean and very much about the wetness, the moisture, bringing us together, connecting us, that clay, not the separated sands, you see. Jupiter actually is said by temperament to be an air-like planet, lifting us up, expanding heat, but moisture connecting us, keeping us together. See if you can taste Jupiter in your local humidity. Jupiter, who mythologically we find is the one who would punish you if you did not treat each stranger as a guest and bring them to the warmth of your hearth and to the sustenance of your table. Even if they were not your own. For are not all children your children? Even your elders? What is it that you will water? What is it you won't? When the Capricorn foundations say it's time to update your calendar, will your house comply? Your neighborhood, your state, your county, your country, whatever that may be. But what about your home? What are the manners of this place from which you grow? Now, you might be growing away from as fast as you can, but you can't. We do not grow away from, we grow out of. And while perhaps this language is more true to the poetry of the fourth house of your chart, there is something about this sign of Cancer, which is the Earth's fourth house. Was that soil from which you grow nutrient rich? Was it moist? Was it dark? Did it promote safety and security and mystery for the seed called you, so you could dream and remember the all that you are? The one instead of just being one the. You know, that's that trine between Cancer and Pisces. So let's continue this story of, here I am, Aries. Oh shoot, I have needs, Taurus. This is me speaking those needs, maybe screaming them without concern necessarily of that thing out there. That'll come in Libra time. In Gemini, this is what I need, and I need to speak it to something outside of me. But what if I can receive? What if I am heard? What if I am loved? What if I am held? What if I am fed? Then I am safe, secure. Do you feel that trine back to the Pisces realm? When I am safe, I can sleep, I can dream, and I will remember in that truth that I am something more than just a me. And then we'll wake up renewed, remembering our right, no responsibility to create and step into our own divine self. But you know what? We'll get to Leo next month. Leo, you will find, actually like Aquarius, breaking the broken rules of the foundations and of the entire structure. Leo's meant to do this for Cancer, right? So when we look at these oppositions, any story we could start, let's say we began a story at Aries. Well, you can tell that same tale beginning with Libra. Just replace me with we. If you begin your tale with Capricorn, you can tell the same story beginning with Cancer, but you replace what with what? Culture with cult? I mean, but isn't cult the culture? I don't know. I mean, neighborhood with home, city with neighborhood. You see that kind of without and within thing? I mean, when the baby screams the needs, typically we're not trying to coach them how to say please. But that actually is information that is passed through nurturing milk. And the baby learns, the milk probably tastes better when mother's rested than when not at all. Certainly, when language starts developing, then we might impose the code of home. Please goes a long way in these parts. Here's a fun example. When the young one here would scream at the dinner table, water, which meant I need water now, I'm thirsty, somebody get me water, save me, serve me. There was a time when water was delivered. The cardinal water, Cancer, give water, water that being, help it grow. Of course. But at some point we must shift to, prepare that one to live. Water, what do you say? Can I have some water, please? May I have some water, please? June or July, some water, please? Cancer. These rules, these codes, these mannerisms, and sometimes beautiful, sometimes not. I thank my mother often for insisting I say my please and thank yous, because as I traveled about and would stay in other homes, I was always acknowledged for acknowledging. We can take that, of course, too far. But when things shift from here's your water to what do you say to hey, it's right there. Please serve yourself. In fact, it's wonderful spring water in a flower of life geometrical glass bottle. Mineral rich to help us all grow. Please have some. Tides, flow, shift, stopping, turning around. Are you going to nurture a 3-year-old kid the way that you nurture a 7-year-old? A 40-year-old, perhaps living in your basement because you can't let them go? And blaming them the whole time? Or maybe they're at home because it's an amazing bond you have, and that's cool too. But make sure you test the water frequently and honor the truth that tides are low and then they are high, and we are speaking about the home of the light that changes. And see how much we can learn about a planet from the sign in which it is said to most graciously reside. See how much we can learn about one of those homes, like the house called Cancer, by exploring these planets that have long been associated, like Moon, like Jupiter, like Saturn, who's said to be in exile in this sign. Saturn's got to keep it solid. The waters, will decay the foundations. Mars, who's said to find fall in the sign of Cancer. Mars, the sacred sword that cuts. Well, what if that sword is made of water? I was born with Mars spinning through the sign of Cancer, out of bounds and slowing down, preparing for a retrograde return to Gemini, but not for I. The time of my birth, that was Mars's place in fall, and I could speak about that at length, but you don't want to see my tears just now. We have much other things to do, and I find also Cancer Mars to be a beautiful placement. I think that will come in a little bit more later on in our journey. Cancer Moon, Mars, Scorpio, see the trine? Cancer Moon, Mars, Aries, see the square? Let's talk about that Aries Cancer square, right? Because individuating Aries, going to do my thing, Aries, can be very tense. The one who said you can do anything you want to do and perhaps gave you that nutrient-rich, moist soil from which to sprout, also said you can do anything you want to do as long as you do what mommy wants you to do because mommy knows what's best for you. And this is how our family does. This is the code. This is the soil from which you come. And for some of us, no nutrients at all, no moisture at all, dryness. And perhaps no mother's milk, perhaps no mother. Abandonment is certainly one of the most popular venues for the awakening of the mystic. And the abandonment, sadly, is not only about those who leave or who are left, but the ones who stay and yet steal anything that is safe, the trauma. Also, soil from which we grow. Show me a mystic that has not known pain. Show me a mystic who has not felt alienation as if they come from a place they don't belong and never did. You scream Aquarius, I say yes, but I will bring you into these Cancer waters too, because you cannot feel weird unless you are different from something. And maybe it's the world at large, maybe it's that Capricorn thing. I hope it is. But maybe it's something closer to home. And maybe not. This is not a necessity, but a very common trait. And oftentimes, this trauma, I find. And even if we are sprouting from soil that was not rich with nutrients, but rather dry, and yet here we are, and yet we grow. We cannot grow away from, we grow out of. Can we have gratitude for our experience? Even for a home, if it was not a home, even the orphanage of your soul, even that place of the depth of the soul in all of these experiences that we cannot know, or even those which are remembered because perhaps they were more painful than the ones that are forgotten. Why is it so much easier to remember the harsh words than the compliments? Well, it is so much easier to give the compliments than receive them. Notice in the Cancer glyph, we find a beautiful expression of balance. Will the nurturer allow herself to be nurtured? Will the giver allow himself to receive? These themes certainly come alive in the Libra mysteries. Do you feel that square with Cancer too? Give, give, give has no space for reception, but of course that brings us to unhealthy nurturing that perhaps is not nurturing at all. What would Dr. Spock say? Oh, well, that's interesting because there's an author of some book that supposedly tells us how to parent, or many would suggest not parent these days. But there's also that cat from Star Trek, who had half Vulcan blood and half Cancer blood. Or, sorry, half human blood. I don't know what they call Freudian slips in the Star Trek universe, but I guess that one will work. Look at that opposition. How can we be dry and wet at the same time? Interestingly, the earth of Capricorn, the water of Cancer are both said to be cold. And that doesn't mean mean, but rather bringing it down, chilling it out. So it's strange to know that Jupiter is said to be exalted in the sign of Cancer, because Jupiter does generally tend to lift us up. But are you lifted up by being pushed out of the nest? Sometimes, yes. Perhaps this is how you learn to fly. But what about that hen who sits on the eggs until they are warm enough for the chick to crack in good time? Sorry, the chick doesn't crack. It cracks through the egg, okay. The mysteries, the geometries, the shapes, the triplicities, quadruplicities, polarities, hexaplicities, these associated planets, these metals, these days of the week, Monday. What has our world done to Monday, Moon Day? The most hated day in a 9 to 5, 8 to 6, Monday to Friday working world. Can you imagine the astrologers who allowed Monday Night Football to be a thing? But you know what? And this is perhaps my Cancer Mars speaking. I love a team. I love putting the jersey on and screaming, sack that quarterback. I mean, perhaps for me, this is my own need to have some connection with my father, for we are so different from one another. And so sharing that tribe, sharing that team, sharing that mascot, the colors, the code, the culture. And yet it was not this way the other day when my father was told by a rebellious son that he would be receiving Kleenex for Father's Day to host the tears that would certainly well forth when the Boston Celtics lost to the Golden State Warriors. And so it was. And perhaps you students of astrology are like, what the heck are you talking about? Warriors? Celtics? Shouldn't you call them Celtics? And is that like appropriation or something? And why are you screaming for Warriors anyway? But can you feel that tribalism? That's part of Cancer too, the cult. And look, let's take that to a more difficult space. What about, these gangs? What about those who never knew a safe night or day? Like literally growing up without a house, without a home, or maybe with one where gunshots were heard all night. And maybe there's a gang, a crew, a tribe who says, hey, come with us. We will keep you safe. We will protect you from the enemy. But they are your enemy, and know that and behave that way. In fact, if you want to be with us, you have to do this to them. That's Cancer too, friends. Make no mistake, the please and thank yous of some homes or of some cults are not so favorable, are not so nurturing, are not so loving, are not so nice. But if you, for the first time in your life, are given the opportunity of feeling safe, what would you not do to sit in that sheltered cave? And I can also love the Boston Celtics while rooting against them. So let's continue to our next page, where we will honor the constellational placement of Cancer in our day. You know, Maria sent me this image of the crab and said, "Oh, I kind of feel like it'd be cool if the crab was holding the sun." And I said, well, how about the moon? Now, look, the moon can never be that huge. It's taking up way too much space. But what a beautiful truth. And there's a cluster on the crab's back called Praesippe, or the honeybee, the beehive cluster, I should say. And two stars, the asses, it said, or the manger, it's called, because Australius, oh, Borealis. No, that's south north. What is the ass star called? Please look it up. But two of the bright stars of the crab constellation are called the asses, and one is like the northern donkey and one is the southern donkey, and I just forget the word for ass. Australis is south, Borealis is north. And they are very dim. The crab constellation is the one that is most difficult to see in the sky with your eyes. It is most demure, it is most hidden. You know what another constellation which is very difficult to see, even though unlike the crab it is huge? The fishes. So traditionally we're talking about the constellations associated with water. The crab, the fishes. And they're very difficult to see in the sky. You know, that hidden water of compassion, the nurturing one who's kind of behind the scenes in the stands offering support to daughter who is performing there on that Broadway stage because she was given that rich soil from which to grow so she could become her own, you know? His mother mentioned in the speech, his father mentioned from that podium, perhaps. But even if not mentioned, there they are. And you know, I remember actually this thing that came from me in a consultation once, speaking to this beautiful man who was telling me the pain of his relationship with his father and how he literally finally got to Broadway. And, you know, it was like in your face, Dad. Despite your abuse, despite that trauma, I have made it to this great stage. And I celebrated that with this beautiful man and then reminded him it was because of his father that he made it there. Right, this is the teaching of the square. The trine is a talent and it's well favored. The square, the skills that are developed in the flames. The shell and the pinchers of the crab teach us things about Cancer, we say, but you know, the tropical sign of Cancer is no longer aligned to those stars, my friend. I should say before I leave the crabby realms of the heavenly happenings, though, there's another constellation with claws. A crab is a star that means claw, and it's one of the bright stars of Scorpio. It was once called Graphius because it's actually the scorpion's mouth. Zubin el Shamali, Zubin el Janubi, the stars of the scales, those are the northern and southern claws. Because the scorpion was shown holding the scales. And I bring the scorpion now because unlike Pisces and Cancer constellationally, and I should say fishes and crab because constellations and signs are very different things. The scorpion is bold to behold, not hiding from anyone. One of the most visible of the zodiac 12. But the fishes, the crab, very difficult to find, especially in the strange cults of street lights. In our day and age, the tropical sign of Cancer is found with the heavenly twins. Thank you to Joji for your incredible assistance here of bringing these visions to the page. Thank you to Maria for these beautiful creations that you are mothering forth for the School of Earthstrology, these original drawings. And you can see present day, it is the twins, and kind of right in the middle of the twins, who are currently aligned to 15 degrees tropical Cancer. Castor, the mortal twin, that's the western twin, the one that sets first, his foot is pointing right to the solstice degree, which is on the hand of the high man, that's Orion's club. Tales for another time. We are living in a very important celestial time based upon the alignment of the tropical, the directional zodiac, right? Literally the spine of Gaia, the axis of Earth, the world tree, the sword of our stone, which always the northern pole leans towards 0 degrees tropical Cancer, insisting therefore that when the sun ingresses tropical Cancer, it shines directly above Earth's Tropic of Cancer. But where that point leans in the heavens, in the stars, it is always Earth north. But where north is shown in the stars, the north celestial pole, this changes with time, and so the south celestial pole. And in our day and age, that earthly spine, these two cardinal cusps, are aligned to the galaxy, right? So we have neighborhood, solar system. We have like the larger city, galaxy, right? Let's take that further, I guess, and I'll use my common, culture's mannerisms. Then we have state, like cluster of galaxies. We have country, we have, the world. We can go on and on, out and out, and in, right? What are the mannerisms of your organs, right? And how are they each unique, but how do they work together to support one home? The house called you. There are so many Cancer mysteries actually in these twins, Castor and Pollux, and the other side of the waters, especially when we tune into Clytemnestra, their sister. Their other sister, Helen of Troy, speaking of waters, the face that could launch 1,000 ships. We will, as we move forward, speak much more about the Egyptian bounds, the decans, and these two systems of so-called decan lords, the 12th parts. So I'm going to just show you those, and we will explore them in depth another time. But understand that while we do say Cancer is the house of the moon's domicile. It's the place where Jupiter is exalted and honored guest. There are also these 12th parts. There are also these thirds. There are also these strange asymmetric terms or bounds that each are represented by different planetary guides. The twins of the sky are here to remind us this death doesn't mean that we are dying. What an amazing thing to consider how Cancer in our day and age is aligned with the celestial twins. That's for us. Couple thousand years, the sign of Cancer will be aligned to the constellation of the bull. So we are currently living in the age of twins, Cancer. And there's something there to behold. There's something there that will increase our knowing and growing if we are willing to listen and face the challenges that arise when you go, wait, Cancer, twins? No, that doesn't work. Like, Cancer is the crab, Gemini is the twins, you know? I mean, there's a thing that I often do when I'm initiating or helping students initiate themselves into the astronomical mysteries is I'll take them outside and I'll say, okay, everybody point to the third house right now. I shouldn't give this away to so many of who are listening because maybe we'll have that opportunity. Well, what do you know about the third house? It's below the ground. And yet, astrologers forget that the chart is a map of the sky. So these things that we know, we forget to bring outside. You know, and I've seen so many astrologers point around, and I'll hear this. I've heard it 3 times now. Hey, point to the third house, and they'll go, "Where is the Gemini constellation?" It's like, wait, what? Like, the constellations and signs are totally different. I had hoped I had shown you enough of that. Well, I failed. Whatever. I got to get past that. You know, that's bad nurturing. And then, wait, even if Gemini, even if you're practicing with a constellational zodiac, like, that's okay if that's what you want to do. All the constellations move through the houses. All of the signs move through the houses. Gemini's not the third. What do you like? Not right now. Not in the time I'm asking. It might be. Let me fulfill right now. Nope. Sun's in Gemini. It's right there. And actually, as I'm speaking, Cancer's on the rise. That feels good. I'm getting close to Leo, though. I better hurry up. So there's this weird thing, right? There's this weird culture in modern astrology. There's this weird language. It's called the astrological alphabet, right? Where there's a lot of powerful messages that can be spoken in that language. Super cool. You know, but we'll hear these things like the moon is the natural ruler of the 4th house because the 4th house is Cancer. Not right now. Like, where I sit, it actually might be for you. You might be on Earth right now where Aries is rising. And then, yes, Cancer is the 4th. Where I sit right now, Cancer is rising. I'm just trying to feel that because I can feel this fire coming. But yeah, Cancer is rising where I currently sit. And that means the 4th sign is not Cancer. Cancer's the 1st. The 4th sign right now where I sit is Libra. Traditionally, planets rule signs, and they didn't use that word, and I don't love it. As you know, I prefer the ancient tongue, which said that Cancer is the domicile of the moon. Libra is the domicile of Venus. The signs are the houses for the planets, but let's use this word for the sake of this transmission. Planets rule signs, but planets rejoice in houses. Planets do not rule houses. Or they do if we use the old terms, because houses mean signs. Maybe that's actually seated in the confusion or the creation of a new device. You know, I shouldn't say that it's wrong. But I see this conflation of what we call signs and houses, or what traditionally would be called houses and places, like hiding many of the depths of the mysteries from us. And it's just like that, you know? You grew up in a home where you were taught this is the way you're supposed to vote, but maybe you come into your own experiences that take you away from that a bit. We are allowed to learn and grow. And sometimes that feels like growing away from, and still it is growing out of. So there's this strange new couple hundred years old astrological alphabet thing that has grown from the ancient code, but sometimes it feels like an apple that's fallen very far from the tree. I'm looking at a few that were not harvested in time for the humans to eat, but perhaps they will be enjoyed to other beings or give their bodies back to the earth. Planets, to use this word, rule signs, but rejoice in houses. And I failed to mention this when we talked about the moon, but here we are entwining moon in Cancer, and that's not the wrong thing to do. The moon is said to rejoice in the third, the place of the goddess in the Hellenistic language, place of the temple. And we will be spending some time with the joys, the planetary joys, very soon in this Earthstrology School, and we will see sect there, day and night written into that code, and so much more. There are many schools of Earthstrology, many ways to pet the cosmic cat, and I would like to stay open to all of them, but I'm very biased, trained to speak the language in a certain way, and it's hard to take on a new dialect without feeling like I am betraying my mother tongue. Interesting, these words, motherland, mother tongue. You feel Cancer there? Nocturnal, inner, cardinal, movable, water, the feels, really, really real, and the feely, feel. And that's something I typically say about the art of the heart, as I often call the fix yourself to fix the world sign of Scorpio water. Pisces compassion cannot happen without Scorpio passion, but Scorpio passion cannot happen without a safe place for us to open to our feels. And that in a sense brings us back to Capricorn. We need that foundation and rules for a game that allow us to feel so we can heal and know and grow. We need to break that broken rule that suggests, how are you? Is a greeting where our response should be good, even if we're feeling quite terrible. How are you? Should be the invitation for a long sit and share, right? Be careful what you ask, the authentic. An authentic heart cannot happen without a place that is safe. And that is the job of this sign called Cancer. The domicile of the moon, the exaltation of Jupiter in the 15th degree, north, northwest, the tide. Earth's spine leans south and north. It defines the cardinal directions. The southern axis leans in every moment forever towards 0 degrees tropical Capricorn, tropicos, the turnaround, the southstice. The northstice is Cancer, 0 Cancer, where we will find at this time the sun setting furthest north on the western horizon, rising furthest north of east on the eastern horizon, reaching the highest height in northern hemisphere skies, and so high in some Arctic locations north of the Arctic Circle where the sun never sets at this time. So low in the southern hemisphere, June solstice, Cancer solstice, northstice, of course, bringing us to the depths, the low tide of the light, I guess. Winter solstice, and south of the Antarctic Circle, the sun will not rise at all at this time. Feel into these mysteries. The sun is simply dancing to the tunes of the moon, the light that changes, with a consistency that helps us learn slowly, annually. But the moon with so much speed, smoothly, because this, my friends, is about the tides. So the tides, right? I'm going to read what I wrote here at the bottom. I embrace the tides of the heart and commit to responsible caring, giving, and nurturing. The tides on the horizon is this dance between the tropicos. Every year, the sun painting the horizons from the north solstice, 0 Cancer, to the south solstice, 0 Capricorn. You can't say this of a sidereal or a constellational zodiac. It is the tropical zodiac that is directional. It is earthly. It is of the earth. It is emanating, I am sure, from the heart of our planet outward. not coming to us from out there. But either way, this is a celebration of the marriage of the above and below, the celestial and the terrestrial, the mysterious and the known. But you know, we are told the seas are the unknown realms of Earth, the final frontier here on the planet. And there are places in space that we have a much clearer view of than the sea, whose depths will not welcome the fragility of the human body. And so in my haste this morning, I forgot to write on these Cancer keys. The favorite thing that came through in my morning bath, which doesn't happen every morning, but it does typically happen on the morning of these Sunday school classes where we're talking archetypes, because that's where I go. And thanks to the water, this antenna to the all that is, going to channel forth these keys that I want to share with you. Some of them coming from this or that school, some of them coming from the school of life, some of them coming from the mysteries of the night and the light of the day. And so the poem is generally about the truth that Cancer is the tidal water that nurtures the bond between the land and sea, between the known and the mystery from which we come, and perhaps that which we will return to, in and out. And you can feel this in the crab who lives in these tidal places, the crab who walks sideways, and the tides which do as well. Right? Because look at the Cancer glyph and all these astronomical truths we've told. And that's why you see north, northwest, and the tide. I mean, due north, the Gemini Cancer cusp. But for reasons I will show you in our golden time classes as we move forward to more of the Earthstronomy, I will say that Cancer is north, northwest, while Gemini is north, northeast. So we are moving our way to the western side, which is most beautifully expressed by the west point, the Virgo Libra cusp. And you can see it in the glyph of the setting sun, once shown as the Ankh, and now the Libra glyph. Oh, so much more than scales alone. And the mysteries of this Cancer glyph are those tides and the crabs that walk sideways, just like the sun on the horizons every year, just like the moon most quickly every month, the light that changes. Feeling, caring, nurturing. And you know what? The other side of that too. So we can fall prey to this idea that the opposite sign are the things that are opposite to that, but actually it's always held within the mysteries of one realm. So the sign that is about feeling will be that about not feeling too. And you know, that can be very tribal, can be very cult. Just because you root for your team does not necessitate you to root against that team with which you compete. Does Cancer like competition? Big question mark. What would the square to Aries have to say? What would the square to Libra have to say? Do you see how you get very different answers? What would the trine with Pisces have to say? What would the trine with Scorpio have to say? Do you see how you get different answers there too? What about this opposition with Capricorn? Well, perhaps the rules of the king are not the rules in this home. Okay. Family. Fertility. And those words can be taken literally and not. And you know, you might have found your soul family. I hope you'll find more of that here in the School of Earthstrology, right? Like this is a tidal pool too. And I'm looking forward to more of that family vibe. It's been really nice connecting in study groups, kind of getting to know each other a bit. And frankly, I feel like the school has plenty of sun, but could use more moon. But this is the golden year. The silver year is to come. All right. The moist, nutrient rich soil from which we sprout. And as I voiced, it might be no nutrients, not moisture, dry, and yet you survive and still sprout, you see. But ideally, archetypally, it's that dark stuff. What is that? Terrapoto? I forgot that soil. There's a soil in South America you may know from the Amazon, which like defies science. Some use it for evidence of an antediluvian society or extraterrestrial visitation. Choose the code of your own cult. It's Cancer. Terrapoto, I believe, right? So this rich, dark, like black, moist soil. You can like see the nutrients against its amazing background, right? That's what we want Cancer to be. That's what we want to offer to those whom we are nurturing, which don't have to be our babies or beings at all. Right? What are you giving birth to? What have you given birth to that you are nurturing? How will you also allow yourself not to like pinch that child with your claws and not let it leave the home? The mother. And yes, the nurturing father as well, but the archetype is so clear. Mater, mater, ma, mar, Mary. But which one? And when the sun was on the cross, which is a very astronomical thing, there were three moons. Oh, sorry, three Marys. The seven, oh, sorry, the Virgin, the mother of immaculate conception, and every conception is immaculate truth. The wife or partner, much better words for that mysterious one called disciple. And I forget, some kind of ant? It's not necessarily the book with which I was personally raised. That wasn't in the mannerisms of my clan or the code of my personal home. I actually did go to a Sunday school when I was a kid, and I didn't do it, I promise you, but the church burned down, and that was it. So that was kind of an interesting story. I've tried to pursue that date to look into it for my own astrological understanding of my soul's growth. But I'm digging this Sunday school more. Because as I shared, I have the need to speak to feel safe. But also, I just love sharing these mysteries that have come to me and also having this beautiful opportunity to connect with Circle, with community, into your wisdom, to your knowledge. I'm not here to teach you my astrology. I'm here to further remind you to remember yours. And it is Moon who is the queen of memories, this depth, the sea. Mary, Mar, Ma, Mater, Matter. And while the watery thing might be held by the matter, perhaps we feel more of that Tauresian exaltation of the moon there, or that Capricorn foundation, perhaps that deep land beneath the sea, where we find Yeti crabs, beautifully named for mountain peaks, mysterious beings who are said to reside there too. Do you know that the bowl of the earth below the sea is as low as the mountain peaks are high? So the Yeti crab and the goat who walks at mountain peaks with the not abominable snowman, the Yeti. These are the mysteries. This is the way. Perhaps that stimulates something in you as well. Okay, the clan, right? I mean, this is the larger mother. And with all these codes and all of these rules of the wider home, you can take that far enough and suddenly we are definitely in Capricorn realms. But it's really interesting. I find this axis personally, Cancer Capricorn, to be the trickiest one when I'm exploring this great question of poles, which says, what is the one thing that Cancer and Capricorn are the two sides of? It feels much more like if I take a Capricorn and bring a microscope to it, I'm going to find Cancer. And if I take Cancer and bring I don't know, telescope, and I'm going to find Capricorn. I can't explain it, but it's those rings within rings within rings in and out like that, right? And so you could just tend it all the way around. So that's true for a pole. What if we bent that rod and connected it, and now we have a circle? I mean, how can I tell that this line that we're looking at is not actually a circle that I'm gazing at from the side? The clan, the home. And I mean the home as like an archetype. The nest, where you can rest, where you are safe, shelter, safety, shelter, safety. Add that to these keys 17 times, 18.6. Shelter, safety, shelter. Home, the cave. And sometimes that cave is that which is hidden, that which is suppressed, that which lives within this rigid shell. Let's honor that truth. And see the crab, literally, I am sure that those dim stars in the sky were drawn together as a crab in the heavens. Why? Because at that time, that was the constellation that hosted the Northstice sun, which then stops and turnarounds, walks sideways like a crab. You can see it in this glyph, which came in later. So much of our mystery tradition is rooted in tropical astronomy. And the crab as well will teach us from the very origin, astronomical or not, and in modern times, many of these mysteries, right? And so it's fun to see how the poetry has evolved through the many bards of this craft over the millennia to share truth of these archetypes as we now know them. The crab. Mother Spider, I wrote actually from an experience I had in the last retreat that I guess co-hosted / attended in Mexico with Ursula Stockter, who is actually a beautiful astrological mother, like a mother of these mysteries, tending to, nurturing, watering. There's a wonderful school in Mexico. Ursula's cultural center, actually, right? And at one point there, my name was called in late night. Hey, you got to see this. But there was this thing of, hey, will you help us, right? That I could hear in the urgency of that invitation. And in the closet of two of the attendees' room, there was a very interesting scene of a large spider, right? And, in the home in which I was raised, sadly, like spiders would be killed. And I still revert to that sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, especially in fear, and like Black Widow, for example, So we want to be careful to also try to understand the language of our fear that was coded maybe in the home in youth, maybe in the deep home of the soul. And learn to rewrite that code and to change and shift our language or the way that we use our language if what we were taught or what we came in knowing doesn't work anymore for who we wish to be. This sign, this is, and the fourth house, which modern astrology associates Cancer with, certainly, like this is the place for us to investigate. And some of these mysteries of the sea are buried, suppressed, or hidden, we can say, within that shell. So I don't kill spiders anymore. Don't want to. Ticks. I'm on the fence, all right? So, but the spider gets, you know, you take the cup, you put the paper underneath it, you take it outside, you free it. And so that was going to go down here, and it did in Mexico in this experience. But oh my golly, it was like, why is that the back of that giant spider itself moving? Have you seen this before? It's like all the spider babies. The spider, the mother spider, was like covered in moving babies, and some of them were kind of bouncing off and then jumping back on. It was insane. Yeah, we could do mother anything. You know, the mother duck who's like taking the chicks across the street, you know, like the mother dog who's taking the puppies one by one in her mouth and carrying them from here to there, you know. With this scene of the mother who was also the house, like literally the physical home for all of these tiny babies as she was moving from I don't know where to where. Right. So if I say grandmother spider, I'm talking about the web, and that really would be an archetype that should come in, I believe, for kind of that Capricorn or that Capricorn Aquarius Saturnian realm. But this mother spider thing, I needed to share more about why that's here on the Cancer Keys for the School of Earthstrology at this time. And it really came from that experience of mother carrying all these tiny babies, right? Who together were then cupped and brought outside to a wonderful place with dark and rich nutrient soil and Tulum to live their lives. And hopefully I did not disturb them so much, but was rather just a vehicle for spirit's intention. Because come on, who wants to live in a closet? But many are forced to because of the false rules, or sorry, true rules of their home, of their family, of their clan. So coming out with your sexuality, with your interests, with your personality. I am an astrologer. And I went to the dentist the other day. He reads on my entry form, Sacred Astronomy Inc. Right? Like, what is that? Oh, I teach ancient astronomy. But eventually I came out. I'm an astrologer. I'm a consulting, practicing astrologer and an educator. And then we were looking at his chart. Not having that fear that we will be burned at the stake as we once were. It's an important thing here. So look at the codes of the culture from which you come in the home. Just because they don't understand you doesn't mean don't be you. Mother hen in the nest, right? I mean, I almost wrote mother bird. It's different, I mean, as we know, some beings like stash their eggs and it's like peace. When you turtles hatch, like run for the sea, it will be in your moon. It will be in your instincts. I don't need to come show you how to run from that place to the seas before you are eaten. This is the way. But birds tend to stay home and nest and roost. And you know why hen doesn't work here so much? Well, maybe so. I don't know. I'm sure, actually. But that vision of, probably this is going to be gross for some of you, that vision of the bird coming to vomit in the baby's beak, that is so beautifully Cancer. I mean, and it really is in this kind of Taurus Cancer sextile, or this like Taurus Gemini Cancer series of inconjuncts, like this tension of, you get these big birds, and I'm like, dude, why don't you go get some food? Like, you're huge. Seagulls, they're like fully grown. It's like, ah, ah. And mom will come and offer food, regurgitated. And like, here's this. I even digested it partially for you. Thanks, mom. The nurse stump. So perhaps you know of these beautiful grandfather trees, these sequoia trees, these redwood trees. I'm very blessed to live close. I'm looking at two right now. Grow like twins over here. It's kind of like a Gemini Cancer thing. Oh, they're Gemini Capricorn thing, actually. We'll see the link between those blind signs some other time. But the redwoods, like, first of all, they're like hollow to deal with fire, and in fact, in ways that I cannot yet explain. I just don't understand. Like fire, it's said to is like necessary for their growth into like a next stage or something. It's so alchemical, you know. But sadly, many of them are cut down, as we know, and I mean, some just die of old age, I guess you would say, even in tree language. And then there are these stumps, right? It's like the old gigantic redwood stump, like, you know, village size stump, and then all of these baby trees growing out of it, right? Or a fallen tree, and then trees sprouting out of it, like not branches of that tree, but yes, branches, new life, new trees from that tree. Oh my goddess. You know, like how incredibly beautiful is that? And you can really feel that Cancer Capricorn like essence, that whole pole there, yes? And it's wet, it's like moist, you know, and the moss. Yemanya we find on these keys. I mean, of all of the poems of principles, Neteru, deities, if you prefer, goddesses, gods, and those in between. A cup of tea for Mercury. Yemanya, you know, the queen of all the Orishas, the mother of rivers and of seas. And some say of particular rivers and particular seas, but I mean, she is such a beautiful queen, moon goddess. I mean, there's so many I could mention. Ishel, you know, the rainbow guardian goddess of the fertile mysteries from the Maya tradition. Hathor, who we saw the house of Heru come forth in the Taurus keys. I mean, Diana, I don't know, like goddess of the hunt, Demeter, Ceres, right? In the Latin, I don't know. Obviously, she was so concerned, but kind of that gripping, I don't know, like these days you would say, like helicopter mother thing when her daughter, well, was maybe taken away. And so the myths say, but I don't know, other poems and perhaps older who called that girl Proserpina or Persephone, Kore. Yeah, this is older, African. Say that. And it kind of reads like this, although it doesn't read because it was not written. These are the whispers. That Kore went down below so that the cold would grip the earth and it would not be therefore interesting to invading force. I find that to be incredibly powerful. But we feel a lot of mother power in the story of Ceres and Proserpina, or in the Greek of Demeter and Persephone, whose mother, you know, was Zeus, father was Zeus or Jupiter. And there's a lot to learn about our inner worlds through the vehicles of these myths and these stories of nature's principles, the Neteru, or if you prefer, gods and goddesses. And Yemanya has so much to sing to your heart. Actually, here's an invitation. Like, find your way to some chants, some songs for Yemanya. And yeah, allow yourself to be held by the mother of the seas, which is the mother of it all. Mar, Ma, the place from which we come. Solstice, where sun and all planets, including moon, planet meaning wandering star, and the moon who wanders most quickly. The solstice points are these places where the planets stop and turn around. The fourth sign, question mark, the third house, we can't do that with Cancer, we do that with moon. Moon is said to rejoice in the third, the place of the goddess. The fourth was called subterranean in the other ancient language, and there is something very important there about that which cannot be seen, that which is suppressed, that which we have to dig for, that which we have to mine, and all this, that stuff that's in the soil which we don't see, the gift of that hosts the roots of this tree, who shows its branches and fruits above the ground and flowers and offers that beautiful pollen to invite us back to the mysteries. So the fourth sign, you know, back to the natural zodiac question. Again, astrological alphabet has some beautiful teachings, but we can get really stuck there. And I'm very stuck there, and not entirely, in trying to get unstuck in all sorts of other things, but without completely leaving the mud. I hear it's good for your complexion. Finally, the shell and the pincers? Question mark. Yeah, I learned a lot. Well, I watched all these hermit crab videos on, online at one point to kind of study this archetype. Because the hermit crab is one of these that can actually change shells, as I spoke to before. Now, the challenging thing is, and I don't know why I never just learned to hit mute, it tends to be hermit crab people put like circus music on in the background for their hermit crab videos. At least so I have seen. That's part of that cult, I guess. Um, but I watched a lot of hermit crabs changing shells. And I was really kind of contemplating this truth of like, what is it to come out? And especially with that shell. We hear this about Cancer that you have, because it's so much about the feelings, that we also have to protect that soft heart, that soft, crabby stuff within the hard shell. And so the shell is there for your armor to hide within, protect you. And the crabs are here to pinch out. I want to honor that Koa here, this now almost 7-year-old Cancer, Sun, Mercury, and Mars. Um, he like so beautifully and literally, what his sign of affection, especially when he was super little, is he would pinch your elbows, like your elbow skin. It's just like coming crabby on it. And we ended up calling it Cancer and crabby. And so he does, and he doesn't do it much anymore, much to my chagrin and much to his mother's joy, because she never dug that. And I guess from the very beginning, when he would nurse, he would pinch on her elbow skin and she just hated it. I came in a little bit later. And I'm like, I love it. But I got that Cancer Mars too. It's something that he and I share, and astrologically in our natal charts. And so, like, a little elbow skin pinch from the little guy was like, I love it, but it's crazy to see, like, Cancer sun sign being Cancer Mars. But that was cool too, because he was like pinching to bring you in. And we can see that as well. So as we're nurturing, however, sometimes we can also just pinch onto what we are nurturing. So I want to get back to that, but let's talk about the shell. So if you watch, despite the challenge of listening to all this circus music in the background, hermit shell videos, hermit crab videos, and this courageous time of leaving that shell, because how it is, you grow too big for the shell and it's time for the next one. But it takes a lot of courage, because you are going to have to expose your soft inner stuff to the predators of the sea. And look, even if you are in a tank all by yourself, that is the instinct. That is the gnosis. Maybe that's the memory. And maybe actually in this crabby life, you left your shell and you got pinched. And you almost died, but you survived and had to run back into that old tight home. And yet, you grow. And if you want to grow more, you got to leave that old shell. This place that has been your nest, this place that has offered shelter, safety. This place that has been like a mother to you. Your home, your cave. But be brave. And what I saw is these crabs that would look around, making sure they find their new shell, they get it really close, right? They align the doors so they can make that surge from the old to the new in maximum speed, minimum time, so there is less chance for the predators of the sea to take them as they expose their soft inner heart. And typically, no matter how perfectly they align them, in the videos I was watching at this time, perhaps because I needed to learn this, they would spring out and they would bump their head against the new shell and kind of float and grab it, and it was not a smooth transition. And they'd get in and then look around like, oh my gosh, I almost died. Or did I? But every now and then you would see this hermit crab where it was like line up the shell and whew, perfect. Right? Like all the judges are holding up those cards that say 10 on them. You know? And who is that one? And I can't say for sure. But what I heard, soundtracked by strange circus music, was the crab who had understood that that scar tissue is something that deserves their gratitude, for they survived that trauma that they subjected themselves to, perhaps with no will of their own, perhaps when they were too young to know, but they survived, and it is that survival that formed that beautiful cluster, that scar, which is theirs, and something that they should love. And with no fear then of getting bitten again, they smoothly transition. May we all. I embrace the tides of the heart and commit to responsible, caring, giving, and nurturing. Responsible giving means I give without needing to receive acknowledgement. Working on it. Responsible nurturing means I will water the seed as it sprouts and offer love to help this tree grow. But when it is strong enough to stand on its own, I will allow it to be watered only by the Mother Earth, Mother Moon, Mother Sky. Responsible caring requires consent and requires the release of the need for acknowledgement that will strip the giver of the gift. And we hear from Khalil Gibran, the prophet, on children. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." Al-Mustafa said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. Thank you, friends, for offering the present of your presence. You are a unique gift, a reflection of the one and only thing, spirit reflected through soul into matter. Only you can you, and I'm so happy that you are spending some of your time doing that here at Earthstrology School. Greetings. All right, so this is a short Q&A because we only have a couple questions after the Cancer Moon transmission here at the School of Earthstrology on June 19th, 2022. Denise asks, please comment on the juxtaposition of summer solstice, so much light, with Cancer, domicile of the moon, queen of the night. Well, maybe our southern hemisphere friends will rejoice in the truth that it's the sun's journey into this house of the moon, tropical Cancer, which brings the longest night and therefore the most full moonlight. Well, here's a thing to know. It's not only the sun that gets high and gets low. Moon does this every month, and also shrinks and grows by phase, right? So all these things in Cancer, I was really trying to get that through in this old kind of image of movable sign and tropicos and solstice, sunstops, where there's a lunar standstill cycle as well, which is 18.6 years long, where the moon actually goes literally 5 degrees further out than the sun can ever go. The sun's northern bounds are the Tropic of Cancer. The moon can get up to Orlando, Florida, 5 degrees north of there, right? So the Tropic of Cancer is the tilt angle, 23.5 degrees about. It's more like 23.4, but then you have to honor that this is 66.6, and nobody wants to say that number for reasons I can't say. Anyway, yeah, at Orlando, they have this Buckminster Fuller spaceship Earth, but it's silver like the moon. And hopefully you know that the Disney folks are into all sorts of weird cult stuff. And I wonder if actually that Epcot Center spaceship Earth is actually meant to be the spaceship moon, because every 18.6 years, when the moon is at maximum, the moon will literally come right above that place for its 5 degrees north of the Tropic of Cancer. So the moon gets like further out than the sun can ever go. I guess this is a plug, or actually also an honoring of my opportunity to share teaching stage with my first teacher, Daniel Jamaro, but we're planning a little mini course on the lunar standstill and looking at different sacred sites around the earth that were born to, or built to witness this wonderful 18.6 year heavenly happening that's tied to the moon's phases, but also to her latitude in the nodes. So why do I share all of this in response to your request for me to comment upon the juxtaposition of summer solstice, so much light, with Cancer moon? Well, you know what? When the moon is in Cancer, in certain years, okay, so this is like the north node of the moon in tropical Gemini to tropical Capricorn. And yes, I speak backwards through the signs. Why? Because the node's retrograde. It maxes out when the north node is at 0 degrees tropical Aries, because then the northern bending is at 0 degrees tropical Cancer, which is the most northern degree of the zodiac. So when the moon is there, it's even more north. And so, you know, the 0 Cancer sun is the highest sun in the northern hemisphere sky, but not nearly as high as the 0 Cancer moon can get when her north node is in particular zodiacal signs, and especially that one called 0 Aries, like the moon. Now, like, just look, when the moon's in Cancer, go watch what the moon does. So, you know, when the sun is in Cancer, I'm just going to speak northern hemisphere. When the sun is in Cancer, it spends, when, let's say 0 Cancer, the Gemini Cancer cusp, the north solstice place, the Tropic of Cancer. When the sun is there, we have the most daylight, right? The sun literally spending the most time above the horizon, the longest day. Well, when the moon is northern latitude, she spends more time above the northern hemisphere horizon than the degree that she projects to. And so when the moon gets extreme north, and again, that's north node 0 Aries, moon at 0 Cancer, The moon spends more time above the horizon than the sun ever can, like way more nightlight. So if you get the rare experience of sun at 0 Capricorn, right? So northern hemisphere winter solstice with an exact 0 Cancer moon, full moon. And the north node is at 0 Aries, so that moon is max. First of all, it's going to rise way before sunset, but it will spend more time illuminating the night than the sun ever can illuminating the day. There's some comments on that juxtaposition. It's a wonderful question. And I'm like more and more and more, I can see the truth that the moon is not the sun's neighbor in the thema mundi, but it works the other way. Why does the moon have its joy in the third house? Well, the third traditionally is called the goddess. So modern astrology tends to know the third as Gemini, as communication and siblings and that, right? But traditionally the third, yes, siblings and neighbors, because it's this world close to us. It's our atmosphere. It's like the water in which we fish swim. And it's the goddess and it's the temple. If it's communication, it ain't your emails, it's your dream mail. Because where is the sun? At what time does the sun visit the third? And we're talking about like midnight to 2 a.m. on average, right? When we're meant to be safe, at home, at rest, in our dreams, right? That language, that's moon language. Those are some reasons that I've heard when I ask the moon about her rejoicing in the third.
From the rise to the reach, to the rest, to the roots, above, so below, from the sea